எத்தனை பேருக்கு குவாண்டம் கம்ப்யூட்டிங் பேசி போர் அடிச்சிருச்சு? ஃப்ராங்கா இருங்க. எத்தனை பேருக்கு லைக் got bored hearing quantum computing for past 2 days? இல்லையா? Is it so interesting? Nice. Okay. Can you get started or people yet to come? Okay, நம்ம ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிடலாம். So why quantum computing build பண்றது? I mean, we are getting to the last slides of quantum computing. அதுக்கப்புறம் we'll talk about the career. So quantum computing, why it is so difficult அப்படின்னா, it's because of the multidisciplinary work is involved, right? To build a quantum computing, it needs a quantum physics specialist, அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு mathematician and computer science specialist. I mean, even if you take all of this, right, இவங்கெல்லாம் சேர்ந்து தான் they can build some system, right? Even within computer engineers, we need someone hardware engineer and someone from field engineer, and நிறைய பேர் join பண்ணி தான் they can build a system. So that is how complicated it is. So அதனால தான் லைக் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு I mean, what to say, like the group கிடைக்கிறதுக்கு it's very hard and to work together. Even to application side. So this is on building the quantum computing itself. Yeah. But if you look at the application side, or if you want to put some of your research in the civil work, research in some of the dam project, abdina, you also need the knowledge about quantum physics. You also need knowledge on the computer science engineering side, and you also need knowledge on the civil side. So multidisciplinary, it's very important in quantum computing because it's at the very initial stage. Okay, so that is one of the major so the difficulty in quantum computing, building the quantum computing systems. So I mean, this is basically the last slide. So enna pesana appadina, quantum computing is just accelerator right now, because it's not going to replace all the classical computers. It might take years, because quantum computer it has a lot of challenges that people has to solve. அதுக்கப்புறம் quantum sensors and communications are impacting now. நம்ம பார்த்தோம், China has already built a quantum network, ஒரு புது இன்டர்நெட் கண்டுபிடிச்சிட்டாங்க quantum வச்சு. So basically, like slowly it would ramp up to other countries. Yeah, so basically the future is all about quantum, right? So that's all I have. I mean, of course, sometimes over digitation is also a problem, right? எதுக்கு அப்படி சொல்றேன் அப்படின்னா, I mean, whatever I represent, I mean, I don't represent Google. In a way, it's personal opinion, because நாளைக்கு, I mean, if you want to go to press and say, like, Google had said this அப்படின்னு சொல்ல முடியாது இல்லையா, because it's all my personal opinion. So keep it at this stage, and if you want to post anything or outside, don't use the name Google anywhere. So just a request for you on this. Cool. Now let's discuss one of the interesting that which you will be interested on. We'll talk about the careers. So initially I want to understand what questions you have. So based on that, we'll try to navigate on the career. I mean, before that, you have any questions about quantum computing? Maybe we'll initially answer that, and then we'll move to the next career path. Quantum computing, any thoughts or any ideas? Any suggestions? No? Feel free to tell your perception or anything you feel. 2 days quantum and ketirukingla. So did something change within yourself? You think, okay, quantum research pannalam illa quantum padikalam. So something would ignited you, is it not? Anyone? Yeah.
Specialized across me.
Can you repeat?
Do you think quantum computing would be specialized for space because like in space it's like in minus degree Celsius, so like when you use the quantum computing tech over there it would be like lesser in temperature, so the problem usually they say in quantum computing is it's overheating thing. So do you think like they will implement it in space and use like some cloud computing to access it from Earth?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Maybe you can try it out, right? Maybe that could be a research project. One day you'll also be there doing that on your own. I think that's a wonderful thought, and I think yes, you can do it. I mean, to that point, temperature is one point, but there are other things also within the quantum computing. But of course, the temperature can be solved there, as what you said. Maybe it's possibility, and it's the future. Great, appreciate your point on that.
Okay, thank you for your thoughts, sir.
Anyone has any thoughts? No? Cool. So let's talk about the career. So initially I want to understand what questions you have. So based on that, maybe we'll navigate. Otherwise it's difficult for me to say what help you need in the career or any questions that you have. Anyone? இப்போ யாராவது ஒருத்தர் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா like everyone start speaking, so you might have to start, at least start and give me some idea like what do you think. Maybe I can then add on to that. So maybe like others can hear it. Yeah.
So I am Sanjay sir. So I see this vibe coding emerging so fast. Vibe coding எல்லாருமே இப்போ chat GPT யூஸ் பண்ணி பில்ட் பண்றாங்க, எல்லாம் பண்றாங்க. பட் கிளாசிக்கலா நம்ம எப்படி பண்ணணும்னா கத்துக்கிட்டு தான் பண்ணணும் எல்லா விஷயமும். ஆனா வைப் கோடிங் வச்சு இப்போ எம்என்சி ஸ்கூல்ல போறதை நம்ம பாக்குறோம். அது எப்ப சேஞ்ச் ஆகும் இல்ல அதுதான் ஃபியூச்சராங்கிற மாதிரி ஐடியா இருக்கு.
Okay, I'll cover that.
என்ன சார்?
No, I'll cover in the slides.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for your questions. I mean, I'll cover in the slides. If it doesn't answer, we will again come back to the specific point.
Yeah, yes. Sure.
So what else?
So good morning sir, this is Primita. ஒரு 5 years பேக் நம்ம பார்த்தோம் அப்படின்னா, ஒரு 10 years பேக் பார்த்தோம்னா சாஃப்ட்வேர் இன்ஜினியர்ஸ் அப்படின்ட்டு ஒரு எரா இருந்துச்சு. அப்புறம் திருப்பி வெப் டெவலப்பர்ஸ் அப்படி இருந்துச்சு. இப்போ திருப்பி பிசினஸ் அனாலிஸ்ட் அப்படின்ட்டு இருக்கு. போக போக திருப்பி எல்லாமே ஏஐ ஓவர் கம் பண்ணிடுமா? இல்ல இப்போ கூட நிறைய எம்என்சிஸ்ல பார்த்தோம் அப்படின்னா எல்லா ஹெச்ஆர்சியும் லே ஆஃப் பண்ணிட்டு திருப்பி புதுசா அதுக்குன்னே சாஃப்ட்வேர்ஸ் கொண்டு வந்துட்டு இருக்காங்க. அப்போ அப்படி பார்க்கும்போது இந்த ஃபீல்ட்ல ஒரு டெக் ஃபீல்ட்ல இந்த ஒண்ணு பண்ணா யூ கேன் சஸ்டெயின் அப்படின்னு எந்த ஒரு விஷயமே இல்லாதப்போ அதோட சஸ்டெயினபிலிட்டியை தாண்டி அது இவ்வளவு ஷியோரா இருக்கு அப்படின்ட்டு எதை சார் சொல்ல முடியும்? லைக் இஃப் ஐ கெட் திஸ் ஒன் ஸ்கில் இட்ஸ் ஃபைன், அட்லீஸ்ட் இட் வில் ஸ்டாண்ட் ஃபார் எவர் அப்படின்ட்டு ஒரு ஸ்கில் ஆச்சு அப்படி இருக்கா? பிகாஸ் ஐ சி எவ்ரி திங் இஸ் சேஞ்சிங் ஓவர் ஃபியூ பீரியட் ஆஃப் டைம். ஸோ ப்ளீஸ் சே சம்திங் அபவுட் இட் சார்.
Sure, that's good question. Anything else you had? I'll answer in the slides. For sure, anyone would have questions, right? Come on, you can speak up. If it's opportunity for you to ask some questions. So others are good from what you're doing, Leah. Or you don't need this session at all. Or you're afraid to ask questions. I'm not going to judge you based on your questions. Or I'm not going to give you an offer based on your questions. But you can just keep on asking what you feel from your mind. Anyone? Okay. So, okay, let's go through the slides. A couple of other questions, Ranjana, you can always free to jump in. So இப்போ டெக்னாலஜி பத்தி பேசணும்னா, I mean, of course, AI has brought in a lot of changes. I mean, lot of questions come in like, AI use பண்ணலாமா வேண்டாமா? Or if AI is the future, why are we coding? Yeah, of course, vibe coding is also there, அந்த மாதிரி. But I think what we should stick to is the basics of it, right? So basics ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியம். If when you talk about computer science, data structures and algorithms is no way you can put it down, right? Even if you take the top companies, maybe the Google, Amazon, Microsoft, still you have to go and code. அவங்க வந்து உங்களுக்கு வைப் கோடிங் தெரியுமானா nobody is going to take you in. நீ வந்து ஏஐ தெரிலன்னு கூட சொல்லிடலாம், they will take you in. But நீ டேட்டா ஸ்ட்ரக்சர்ஸ் அல்காரிதம் தெரில அப்படின்னா they will not take you in, right? So I'll tell you the problem behind it, right? I mean you might be using VS Code or IntelliJ, right? அதெல்லாம் யூஸ் பண்ணும்போது என்ன, what you will understand is that it will try to autocomplete, right? AI is no different than that இல்லையா? இப்போ நீங்க வந்து ஆட்டோ கம்ப்ளீட் பண்றதை you just AI will give you code, some more code, அவ்வளவுதான். But ideally who will go and debug? Only we are going to debug. Who is going to solve the problem? We are going to solve the problem. So AI can go and இருக்கிற problem it will search a pattern and it will give you. But புதுசா எப்படி கண்டுபிடிக்கணும் அதுக்கு தெரியாது, right? It can read through hundreds of books and tell you like, okay, இப்படிதான் சால்வ் பண்ணிருக்காங்க, இப்படி சால்வ் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி கொடுக்கும். பட் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ப்ராப்ளம் எப்படி சால்வ் பண்ணாங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லி who has solved that problem? Humans, right? அந்த ப்ராப்ளம் இப்போ நம்ம வந்து புதுசா ப்ராப்ளம் டிஃப்ரெண்டா சால்வ் பண்ணா that's our own solution, that's our own patent, right? I think that is the point you should always be in for. And I think I urge you to even think about, you shouldn't leave coding at all. வந்து கோடிங் எழுதிடும், அது கோடிங்க்கு வேலையே இல்லை அப்படின்னு சொல்லி நினைக்கவே கூடாது. Coding is the basic thing that you have to do, right? Even I'll tell you how to practice coding, right? ஒரு கோடிங் ப்ராக்டிஸ் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா you have to break your head, you have to practice. It's not like one day, 2 days. It takes months, years to get that accomplishment. For example, so if you have coded, you could have known sometimes night full உட்கார்ந்திருப்பீங்க, ஏதோ ஒர்க் ஆகல, ஒரு சின்ன ஒரு செமிகாலன் மிஸ் பண்ணிட்டு, right? Sometimes you don't know, ஒரு சில்லி மிஸ்டேக், ஒரு பெருசா ப்ராப்ளம் போட்டிருப்பீங்க, ஆனால் ஒரு சின்ன மிஸ்டேக் you will be sitting the whole day to solve it or months to solve it. So what I'm trying to say from here is that experience is something you need to gain. For example, if you do the same vibe coding or error வந்துருச்சு, right? How will you debug? இப்போ உங்களுக்கு கோடிங் தெரியல அப்படின்னா AI will get into, AI is not that mature to get all the coding for you, right? அது வந்து நிறைய மிஸ்டேக்ஸ் பண்ணும், பட் ஐடியா you are capable of doing it, debugging itங்கிறது இங்க ஒரு மெயின் ஃபேக்டரா இருக்கு. So for example, I'll tell you my experience, right? So now when the first initial code it took 1 month to solve one problem, right? Adu na path the type edicha code path slowly and the frequency build panna over the period of time, practice panni, like it took from 1 month to 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, aprom 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, 1 hour, அதுக்கப்புறம் 30 minutes, அதுக்கப்புறம் 50 minutes. So that is the thing that you have to build. It cannot be like எனக்கு கோடிங், நான் நிறைய பேர் பார்த்துருக்கேன் காலேஜ் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்ல, they say எனக்கு கோடிங்கே வராது. இட்ஸ் நாட் கோடிங் வராதுன்னு சொல்ல முடியாது. இட்ஸ் ஜஸ்ட் தட் we haven't tried. ட்ரை பண்ண எல்லாத்துக்குமே வரும் கோடிங். இட்ஸ் நாட் ராக்கெட் சயின்ஸ். Okay, so basically you have to get into that stage where you have to learn the coding. Maybe நீங்க அந்த கோடிங் லைன்ல போறீங்களா இல்லை, it's totally different. But have you tried it is the first question, right? So I think you have to try that practice and don't sit in a perception that AI will take your job. That's completely useless on that. அதுக்கப்புறம் செகண்ட் உங்களோட கொஸ்டினுக்கு like keeps, lot of things keep on evolving அப்படின்னும் போது, so I think that is where as an engineer you should make a better decision, right? இப்போ நான் ஒரு engineer அப்படின்னா I should know what things will make more impact. For example, HR எடுத்துக்கோங்க. What is the job of HR? Ideally HR it's a big branch, but I think you're talking about recruiting in specific. Recruiting ன்னு பார்க்கும்போது how do people recruit? Resumes எல்லாம் பார்ப்பாங்க, okay, because I mean now a recruiter I don't know like each one's behavior. Yeah, so I generally my first point is I look at your resume. The resume பார்ப்பேன் என்ன பார்ப்பேன், okay in the okay you know Java, C++, data structures, okay next what else, you know you did something else. இதுக்கு you need, do you think someone is needed? It's a repetitive task. Whenever you see a repetitive task, then you can assume that that job is at risk, right? On the repetitive task how you can automate and சொல்லி பார்க்கணும். So it's not a bankல போயிட்டு மார்னிங் ஈவினிங் வரைக்கும் காசு எண்ணி கொடுத்துட்டு வர ஜாப் இல்லை. This is right, this what call is engineering. We have to iterate over it. இப்போ நான் படிக்கும் போது there was no AI, right? There was only just coding. After we get into the field we have to learn ourselves and adapt to the AI. இப்போ quantum computing வந்திருக்கு. Now we have to go and adapt to quantum computing. There was a VR at some point of time. அதை போய் நம்ம adapt ஆகணும். So that is the adaptability we have to build. நம்ம காலேஜ் முடிச்சிட்டோம் லைக் லேர்னிங் ஸ்டாப்னு சொல்ல முடியாது. Then you're outdated. இன்னைக்கு you learn today, next day it get outdated. So that is the pace the whole computer science job is going, right? So அதனால what is the basics? I mean you can't learn everything. நான் வந்து AI படிச்சுட்டு VR படிச்சுட்டு like web development you don't know, I mean you want to back end mobile எல்லாமே படிச்சு no one is going to I mean judge based on that. What they need is, do you know the basics, data structures, algorithm, do you know how to code trees? Either I mean basically like initially it is complicated, but once you get into that you will be the top one who will be solving the problem, right? So அதை மட்டும் you have to go deeper and solve it. Once you do that you can learn any language, right? For example இப்போ நீங்க AI எடுத்தோம்னா it's neural network, deep learning. அதில் வந்து you use maybe Python or whatever it is, you use arrays, pandas, whatever library it is. Underlying data structure is the same, isn't it? Ideally they use trees or they use maps or எல்லாமே. I mean basically that is more important. And one more important thing I want to say is that எல்லா top companies they haven't removed the coding round, and coding round still stays and you have to practice with it, right? So in that way I think you have to think. I mean basically we can't say which job is secure for your question. We have to think whether on the job வந்து இப்போ நான் 2 years experience, I mean I'm 2 years experience into that field, என்ன வந்து யாராவது ரீப்ளேஸ் பண்ண முடியுமா அப்படின்னா yes you are at risk. இப்போ நீ வந்து ரீப்ளேஸ் பண்ண முடியாதுன்னா then you are standing out அப்படின்னு அர்த்தம். So that is how you should think. Like in every day you do a job, you have to reflect on what you're doing, whether is it really worth doing this job, etc. Right. So I mean there are a lot of opportunities for say, I mean one the technology, what you say coding or AI, quantum computing, இது எல்லாமே இருக்கு. So other one is UX. UXங்கிறது you design your page, etc. or product line. So all of this line still exist, but what do you think the safest one is? Yeah, guess பண்ண முடியுமா? What is the safest line to choose here if you want to be safe in the field? Yeah, great. Learn skills, of course. So learn skill is a great thing. I mean of course you should have the interest to each of the field, right? And I mean at the current state what you're seeing is program management, product management is mostly concentrated towards MBA, right? There are a lot of people who have done MBA who are jobless. Why do they want to take someone from the graduate, right? So that is where now currently the situation is. If you can find something on that space, it's easy to navigate, but if you can't find it, it's very difficult to choose that path, right? At the same time, the highest paying role is software engineer, right? You talk about product, the software engineer is the highest paying job, and maybe like the safest as well. So I think you have to choose your thing wisely, like, what is your interest. Coding, try பண்ணாம coding வரலங்கிறது, it's another category. You shouldn't do that. Try பண்ணி, at least you try it for 6 months, 1 year. Then you see how we are. For example, initially பண்ணும்போது like ஒரு 2-3 weeks பண்ணும்போது you will say எனக்கு இது வராது அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். But over the 6 months, 1 year பார்க்கும்போது, I mean, if you try, continuously try it, then if you see back, friends எல்லாம் எங்கே இருப்பாங்க, நீ, I mean, நம்ம மட்டும் வேற இடத்துல இருப்போம். Right? So that is where you need to build that capability. Slower build பண்ணணும். So once you build that, you'll be in the safer hands in the industry. If you are thinking, if you want to do some job which you want on the safer side, right? On the other hand, product management, இதெல்லாம் வந்து it's என்ன சொல்றது, ஒரு too much competition. For example, a competition student can get into coding, right? But other streams coming into coding, it's very difficult. For example, if you take someone from mechanical, civil, எத்தனை பேர் coding இதுக்கு வருவாங்க? Maybe 1-2. But we are in that field. 4 years நம்ம அதை பத்தி படிச்சிருக்கோம், data structures படிச்சிருக்கோம், networks படிச்சிருக்கோம், everything related to coding. So we have the higher edge towards it. But if we look at the other roles, everyone will compete. So you will see the competition in that field, right? So this is totally my perception. It's not industry, but I think you can choose whatever you want. What I'm saying is, அந்த இடத்துல நீங்க வந்து competition அதிகமா இருக்கும், but இந்த இடத்துல competition கம்மியா இருக்கும், but at the same time you can also achieve what you want. So that's it. அதுக்கப்புறம் I want to say about this thing, right? I mean, in the current state, we say like job நிறைய openings இல்ல அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது, it's really true. It's not because AI has taken over. It's also because the economic slowdown of the global economic slowdown. So அதுக்கு என்ன solution? I think you have to build your capabilities. For example, you finished your college, you don't have a job. என்ன பண்ணு next? Will you sit every day and apply for a job? Right? I mean, of course, if you are having a startup, if you are trying to do something new, that's different. But do you sit every day for 6 months and apply for a job? That's a wrong decision to take. So ideally, what you have to do is, you have to spend some time. Okay, morning, afternoon, I am going to spend some time in learning the new tech. Right? I'm going to do prompt engineering. I want to learn some coding like Python. I'm going to learn some coding like Golang. So, okay, and data structures, இதெல்லாம் practice பண்றேன், or coding like lead code எல்லாம் பண்ணுவேன். So the second half, okay, I'm going to apply the job. So that what happens is, even after you finish your college, if you don't have job for 6 months, 1 year, you can say that 6 months I have done this, 1 year I have done this, right? So that is the motivation that you should have in yourself. So that is very important at the current state to get a job, because people look for persistently like who is trying over it, right? I mean, I'll tell you how to present a resume, for instance. So the first thing that you do after your studies is, for example, if you want to get into a company, is the resume, right? அந்த ரெஸ்யூம்ல என்ன இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னா, I think you might have already done some research, but I'm just giving you some pointers how people are looking at it, how AI systems will look into it, right? என்ன பார்ப்போம்னா, I mean, of course you can generate a resume using Gemini or ChatGPT. ஒண்ணுமே பண்ணாம it will give you the 2 pages, 3 pages, but no one is looking for 2 pages, 3 pages. 1 page or maximum 2 pages is sufficient for your resume. But அதுல என்ன இருக்கணும்னா, you should have metrics. What metrics I'm talking about is, நீங்க ஏதாவது கோடிங் பிளாட்ஃபார்ம்ல பண்ணிருப்பீங்கல்ல, so you have to put that metrics. For example, which rank you're in lead code, how many problems you have solved, you got any prize in any of the hackathons, ஏதாவது பேட்டன்ட் வச்சிருக்கீங்களா, ஏதாவது கான்ஃபரன்ஸ் பேப்பர் போட்டிருக்கீங்களா, so that stands out. So basically you have to show your strength. At the same time, you have to I mean, ஒரு லைன் ரெஸ்யூமே படிக்கும் போது there should be some data, right? Data இல்லாம I am a good engineer அப்படின்னா, known as what is a good engineer for you, right? So these are the things which you should avoid. Rather put like what is really needed, or what you really want to showcase to the someone is seeing your resume. So the second point is, once you put all this, I mean, don't put the obvious like I like playing cricket, but people say that you can put it, but don't put that. Rather, hobbies is like I like reading books. Indirectly support I mean your career. For example, you are good at learning things, that hobby will showcase you, right? In hobbies, I mean I like to do some IoT project. That will support you to your decision, right? Whether you're interested in more tech, it will boost you up. So you have to put those things inside your resume so that it is more attractive. So when I look at the resume, each line should be attracting, right? I got this much in lead code, this thing, these are the projects I've done. For each project, how is the success metrics and so basically, you have to build that resume in such a way. Adukku you have to work from now. Nama resume enna miss agudhu. How can we build that resume? So adukku what we need to train. For example, you did a quantum computing. What you did in quantum computing? For example, you ஒரு சின்ன ஒரு simulator வச்சு ஒரு quantum computing build பண்ணிருப்பீங்க. Just put that I used this simulator, Qiskit simulator. I did this. That has more point than saying like I know quantum computing, right? So those are things you should be aware of putting in a resume, because nowadays no one is going to resume read பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. It's totally dependent on AI. And of course நீங்க பண்ணலாம் AI, Gemini, ChatGPT வச்சுட்டு you can ask, can you review my resume? Tell me what can I improve? யார் கேட்டிருக்கீங்களா Gemini கிட்ட? So basically you can try to do all of this. Gemini gitter, you can ask review whether my resume will get shortlisted. Can you give me some points how I can improve my resume? And you can get some insights from that. You can say, okay, if you are Google HR, Gemini prompt. If you are Amazon HR, if you are a Microsoft HR, how would you review my resume? Can you give me some feedback on it? What it will give. You can easily get to know like where you stand. Okay, so that is something which I would like to tell. I mean, of course, you have to build your profile, LinkedIn, GitHub, because of course, you use agentic AI. So what that ideally does is, when it scans your profile, LinkedIn, it will go into the LinkedIn, it will get all your details. அந்த லிங்க்டின்ல நீங்க என்னென்ன பண்ணிருக்கீங்க அப்படின்னா அதை வச்சு it will score you, right? Even GitHub, it will go into the GitHub open source project என்ன பண்ணிருக்கீங்க, it will score you against it. If you did some research papers, it will go into the research papers. If it's online, it will go through the research papers and say like how good is that research. So that is the level, that is the details it will get you, right? So you should prepare in such a way. I mean, I'm just giving you hints. இது வந்து பயப்படுத்துறதுக்காக இல்ல, but I'm saying like at least you move in some direction, you'll be able to easily attract the current industry னு சொல்லுவாங்க. Okay, so that is very important for you to do it. I mean, if you have not done it, it's not too late. I mean, even if you're studying in college 3rd year, 4th year, it's not too late. There are people who are like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they don't have job, right? So software engineering, there's no late entry. Anytime you can get in, right? Until you have stuff, you can get in. So you didn't think like, I'm outdated, but at the same time, you should have motivation. You should have practice in real life. So that is okay. So basically, we talked about AI's powerful tool. I mean, I think we talked about all of it. And yeah, of course, we also talked about the less time on repetitive coding, right? So how AI can enhance is that the repetitive code, it will try to reduce it. That's it. It's not going to replace what you code, right? For example, ஒரு problem நமக்கு கொடுத்திருக்காங்க அப்படின்னா, we are going to solve that problem, right? Gemini or ChatGPT is not going to solve a problem for me. நம்ம approach சொல்லுவோம். So this is how I'm going to solve my problem. Can you validate? அப்படின்னு சொல்லி validate கொடுக்கலாம். But you can't say you solve a problem for me, right? because that will take the existing pattern. For example, I mean the same example I gave, right? IntelliJ or VS Code is kind of a code completion for you. It's not a really tool to even enhance your solve your problem for you. So basically we have to understand that aspect and try to see, for example, how it works in our side is, until last year it was like, every month or every year we write 2000 lines of code or 5000 lines of code or 10,000 lines of code. But now you have to write 2x of what I'm writing the code, because I can use ChatGPT or Gemini to write the code. I can do the repetitive. For example, a class design, right? Oops design. If you are solving some problem, we'll say, okay, this is how I'm designing it. Can you give a code? But நம்ம கான்செப்டே தெரியாம if we go and give it to Gemini, what it will do? நமக்கு at least we should know something to give Gemini what we need out of it. Yeah, once we give it, fine, class design la கொடுத்துட்டோம், it gave the output. Now we asked it to write a code, it gave the output. அது mistake பண்ணிருச்சு. Currently it also does it. Do you have the capability to go and debug that issue? That is also important. அது எப்போ build ஆகும்னா, you have to write a code on your own. அப்போதான் அந்த capability build ஆகும். Otherwise until then that capability, you will not be able to build by yourself. So that is one. I think the system design architecture, I think for your level it might not be a big thing, because I think while you get experience, that system design architecture will of course come in hand. So yeah, of course, things are good to have is that, of course, coding is one thing. Of course, if we talk about quantum computing, if we talk about AI, it's good to know all of it. How many of you know prompt engineering? See, I think you have to see how the prompt engineering works, right? How to give a prompt to a system. That is very important in AI. Either you can do that. Some companies look at prompt engineering, how we are able to give the inputs to the Gemini. So these are things you have to learn. It's not a big thing at all. Prompt engineering, it's not a coding. It's a way of how you give the input. நம்ம கூகுள் சர்ச் யூஸ் பண்ற மாதிரி ஜெமினியோ இல்ல ChatGPT யூஸ் பண்ண முடியாது. You have to give specific inputs to get output what you want, right? So these are the things. The other one is communication. So whatever knowledge you have, maybe you might be like very good in technical, அதை உங்களால explain பண்ண தெரியலனா, then you are missing out a lot of things. So you should be able to explain it clearly. So there are a lot of tools outside. Read books, go to technical content. YouTube is technical content. If you look at it, see how people are explaining it and the words you use பண்ணன, and slowly whatever you're solving, you try to explain to different people in different way, right? I think you can take the English as the common language to explain to everyone. See how we are building it. Because I have experience in my college days, நிறைய பேர் இங்கிலீஷில் பேச மாட்டாங்க, because English பேசினா ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸில் ஓட்டுவாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு. பட் ஐட்லி தே மிஸ்ட் அ லாட் வென் கேம் இன் டு தி இன்டர்வியூ ஆஸ்பெக்ட். அவங்களால ஒரு ஸ்மால் இது அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுறான்னு அவங்களால சொல்ல முடியல. தே ஃப்ளூயண்ட் இன் தமிழ், பட் டு யூ திங்க் தேர் ஹையர் இன் தமிழ்? இல்லை, தட் இஸ் ஹவு த இண்டஸ்ட்ரி இஸ், ரைட்? Then you might have to build that English knowledge. And the English knowledge build பண்றதுக்கு there are multiple things. As I was telling you, look at the YouTube videos. YouTube videos la they do like coding interviews irupanga. You see how they are explaining the code. There are tools online where you can do coding with the other person, peer review. Adula paranga how are people explaining the code, how you are explaining the code. Are you able to clearly explain what you're doing? That's very important. நீங்க வந்து ரொம்ப ஸ்டைலிஷா வேர்ட்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ண அவசியம் இல்லை. Just simple English words which are you able to explain to different people. That is the best thing that you can do to achieve your goal, right? Why I'm saying this is, interview கிடைக்கிறதே ரொம்ப கஷ்டம். அது இன்டர்வியூ கிடைச்சி அதுக்கப்புறம் கம்யூனிகேட் பண்ண முடியல, அதுக்கு மேல then you have to fall back again, right? then again you have to improve your communication skill. Akapura திருப்பி you have to again find an interview and again go to a place where you want to communicate, then again fall back. So I think you have to build all this in the college days. I think as a friend நீங்க வந்து ஹெல்ப் பண்ணு, எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஹெல்ப் பண்ணி okay you talk in English, தப்பா இருந்தா பரவாயில்ல, correct it. So that's where the friend circle is much more helpful. ஏதாவது குரூப்ல நல்லா இங்கிலீஷ் பேசுறவங்க இருப்பாங்க, I mean ஓட்டு வாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு பேசாம இருந்தா that is even more a mistake or even more a thing that you are trying to degrade your fellow friends. So அப்படி பண்ணாதீங்க, because it will hurt you a lot in the future. இங்கிலீஷ் தெரிஞ்சவங்களுக்கு it is not a big matter at all, but இங்கிலீஷ் இல்ல, I mean that's not a primary language இல்லாம இருப்பாங்கல்ல, so they will struggle a lot because of that. Because after you finish your college you can't அவங்களை கூப்பிட்டு வச்சு உங்களால இங்கிலீஷ் சொல்ல கொடுக்க முடியாது இல்லையா, that's very hard. So it's better to utilize as a friend. You should also help in that way, because these are the experiences I had and a lot of people had in their college days as well. So that you should take it very seriously. I'm telling, if you do that, you're doing a very great job for your friends and for yourself, right? So I mean, of course, I mean this the last one is optional. I mean, யாருமே உங்க quantum computing for you have to excel and சொல்ல போறது இல்ல, or ML, cloud, mobile எல்லாமே தெரியணும்னு யாருமே எதிர்பார்க்க மாட்டாங்க. You choose one language, Java, any oops level Java or C++, Python, whatever you like. On the language, go in depth. Nobody will ask like, how many languages you know. I know 500 languages or 100 languages or 10 languages. Nobody cares. But ஒரு language in the depth தெரிஞ்சு வச்சிருக்கீங்களா, that is very important. Given you today interview at Google, Microsoft or top companies, they will ask for என்ன language உங்களுக்கு தெரியும், other depth பார்ப்பாங்க தவிர they don't ask you like, okay you know Java, Python, okay you know multiple languages, I'm going to hire you. அது யாரும் சொல்ல மாட்டாங்க. If you know one language, know in depth, அவ்வளவுதான். So that is one thing. I mean, of course, if you have more time, of course you can go through other things, that's also good. Think that's all. So there are platforms if you want to really try these things out. I mean, first thing is specifically for Google. One thing I always tell you is Google and சொல்லிட்டு ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணாதீங்க, இல்ல மைக்ரோசாஃப்ட் சொல்லிட்டு ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணாதீங்க. Don't stick yourself to the brand, right? So to tell my personal experience, after my final year college, I didn't get any of these companies, right? I got a company called ThoughtWorks. It's a wonderful company. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி அந்த கம்பெனி இருந்துச்சான்னு தெரியல, பட் I explored a lot to find okay அந்த மாதிரி கம்பெனி ஒரு சூப்பரான கம்பெனி இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி I got to know. I applied. Then I liked that company. Slowly over the period of time I built my capabilities, all of it. அதுக்கப்புறம் when I really started applying for companies like Microsoft, Google, Adobe, Atlassian அந்த மாதிரி கம்பெனிஸ் அப்ளை பண்ணும்போது, then I didn't even expect I will go into the company called PhonePe, right? I went into PhonePe. அதுக்கப்புறம் then I tried to do some more homework and then I got into Google. So basically நான் அப்ளை பண்ணும்போது I didn't have anything in mind. நான் கூகுளில் செலக்ட் ஆகாத அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு I don't stick your brand. So tomorrow someone will be a startup, a founder, someone will be a researcher. So each one will have its own lane, right? So அதனால you shouldn't stick to a brand for whatever you do, because 90% நீங்க ஹார்ட் ஒர்க் போட்டாலும் 10% அங்கே லக் இருக்கும். Okay, so that luck should click you, right? ஆனா you don't believe like 90% luckன்னு சொல்லிட்டு போய் உட்காரக்கூடாது இன்டர்வியூல. So that is wrong, but 90% hard work போடலாம், but 10% always there is a chance of luck. But you take the luck apart and say 100% hard work அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு போட்டா obviously sure you're going to get a job for sure, right? There's no doubt in it. I mean, if you don't have the luck, what happens is 5 companies attend பண்ணா at least one you'll get. Luck இருந்துச்சுன்னா ஒரே கம்பெனில ஒரே அப்படியே செலக்ட் ஆயிடுவீங்க. So that is the difference between hard work and luck. So you should have build that hard work, then you will not, I mean that will be a backbone for you wherever you go. I mean some of the things you can always see if you ask like how to get into Google அப்படின்னா, I mean I have some knowledge. So basically if you look at some of this careers பார்க்கலாம், of course Google Summer of Code, using all of these platforms if you really want to go and try out some codings பார்க்கலாம். I mean how Google hires is கோடிங் பிளாட்ஃபார்ம்ஸில் யார் நல்லா பண்ணுறாங்களோ அவங்கள மட்டும் தான் அவங்க they prefer. The reason I'm telling you why Google does this way is, or I mean, when I say Google, I'm representing Microsoft, Amazon, எல்லா கம்பெனிஸ்க்கும். The reason they are trying to do is, அவங்களால ஸ்டூடெண்ட் கம்யூனிட்டி எல்லாத்தையுமே அவங்களால they can't screen it. It's very difficult. So how they want to filter it? அப்படிங்கும்போது coding is the first way they try to filter it out. So that is the only path they try to choose it, right? I mean, of course, they go to IITs. Yeah, IITs போறாங்க அப்படின்னா, it's not that நல்ல ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் மற்ற காலேஜில் இல்லை அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு, if they go to IIT, at least 100ல 2 or 3 people they can get it. அது மோட்டிவேஷன் வச்சு தான் போறாங்க. But if you go to other colleges, maybe you'll get in 1000 to 3. Right? So that is the challenge that big companies like Amazon, Microsoft and those companies are facing. So அந்த ஒரே சேலஞ்சினால மட்டும் தான் they take this line of, you know, Google, like they keep some tech circles and my which through that they try to you know, filter people. So that is one of the main reason. And I think these are the things you can use for skill building. For example, lead code. நான் காலேஜ் படிக்கும் போது லீட் கோடு இருக்குன்னு தெரியல, எனக்கு தெரியாது. But lead code is the top platform which everyone tries to use it to you know, practice coding, right? Problem solving. And there is one more book. எத்தனை பேர் படிச்சிருக்கேன்னு தெரியல, but you know this cracking the coding interview. எத்தனை பேர் கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்க cracking the coding interview? Yeah, so you have to read that book, cracking the coding interview. That is one of the very famous book, right? You can use the Indian version of it. It doesn't give you problem and solution. It will tell you how to solve a problem. Because people look for problem solvers. They don't look for if you actually sit in some interviews, right, for Microsoft or any top companies, அவங்க வந்து நீங்க ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம் தெரிஞ்சா அதுக்கு ஆன்சர் தெரியுமான்னு பார்க்க மாட்டாங்க. ஆன்சர் வந்து உங்களுக்கு தெரியக்கூடாது, பட் ஹவ் ஆர் யூ அப்ரோச்சிங் தட் ப்ராப்ளம்னு பார்ப்பாங்க. ஈவன் யூ டோன்ட் கெட் ரைட் ஆன்சர், தட்ஸ் ஃபைன், பட் ஹவ் ஆர் யூ அப்ரோச்சிங் தட் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். அந்த புக்ல இட் வில் கிவ் யூ கிளாரிட்டி ஆன் ஹவ் யூ ஷுட் அப்ரோச் அ ப்ராப்ளம், ரைட்? ஸோ தட் இஸ் ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம் எடுத்தா இப்போ சர்ச்சிங் அப்படின்னா எப்படி ப்ரூட் ஃபோர்ஸ்ல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் சர்ச் பண்ணும், வாட் இஸ் டைம் காம்ப்ளெக்சிட்டி ஃபார் இட். அதுக்கப்புறம் மேபி கேன் யூ சூஸ் அ பைனரி சர்ச் ஆர் கேன் யூ choose a AVL search, and what is the complexity for it. So for each of it you might have to validate your answer against, right? So on mari, like, you have to go step by step. Edutone okay, I know this is binary search, so solve panna straight away rejected, right? You shouldn't do that. You have to tell how you are approaching the problem, right? So that is one thing. Adukapro that is a lot of platform. I think that's called pram.ai or something. So basically that will help you to if you want to do some coding practices, there'll be anonymous reviewer or யாராவது ஒருத்தர் மேட்ச் பண்ணி விட்டுருவாங்க. I think pram.ai நினைக்கிறேன். So you can just go and do some interview, schedule a time. Okay, இன்னைக்கு 3:30 to 4 I'm going to do an interview அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு, so somebody will join and half an hour நீங்க கோடிங் பண்ணுவீங்க, half an hour அவங்க கோடிங் பண்ணுவாங்க. So both have to exchange your notes and you will get the reviews for yourself, right? So these are some tools you can utilize it, right? இதெல்லாம் utilize பண்ணலனா it's a big loss for you, right? At least check how the tools are and how are there, right? And build a strong network. I mean, that is very important, right? Whenever going to a conference, the LinkedIn, if you ஒரு company attend பண்றீங்க அப்படின்னா, try to look for people, right? இப்போ ஸ்ட்ரெயிட்டாக போய் கேரியர்ஸ் பேஜுக்கு அப்ளை பண்ணுங்க, yes, that's good, but how many people will apply to careers? பட் உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சவங்க, எங்கள் காலேஜில் படித்தவங்க இல்லை தெரிஞ்சவங்க, they work in some companies, try to do some search in the LinkedIn. அவங்கள பிடிச்சி லைக் நீங்கள் 10 மெம்பர் காமிச்சோன்னா அட்லீஸ்ட் one will reply, right? Sometimes no one replies. So you have to find that network, and the network pudichi, like, okay, then you have to say, okay, I have this resume, I've done so much hard work. Neenga chuma hi and anchittu chuma irukkodadu. That's not a good practice of sending a mail. Nobody will read a hi, right? So we have to explain at the first context, like what are you trying to do, what is that you need from the other person, because எல்லாரும் busy இருப்பாங்க. They just look at phone for 1 minute. When there's someone random person say hi, they'll just close and come back, right? So you have to say like what you need, and then if they are able to help, okay, they say okay, I can refer you to this person. So basically, like, that's how the conversation happens, and slowly, like, when you have reference, you have a good chance of getting into the interview process itself, right? So that is one thing. Yeah, I mean, of course, I want to say that don't be afraid to experiment and learn, right? இதெல்லாம் பார்த்துட்டு பயந்துட்டு உட்காரக்கூடாது. You have to try it. If you are trying it, if you didn't get it, that's different story. But try பண்ணல அப்படின்னா it's a totally a dumb, right? You are fit for nothing அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம், right? I mean, in a life, I think we have to do that, try something. சில டைம்ல நம்ம embarrass ஆகும், சில டைம்ல insult ஆகும், right? So that are part of the life. Sometimes people, நமக்கு தெரியாது, இப்போ இன்டர்வியூ ஃபெயில் ஆனா will feel so much embarrassed, but you shouldn't feel that embarrassment. You should see that as opportunity for you to grow to the next level, right? Even for other way, I mean, if interview select ஆகல அப்படின்னா you shouldn't feel bad about the other person, right? You should encourage them to do further. For example, I gave I mean, if I have to take my personal experience, at least I gave 3 to 4 interviews in Google, right? Not only Google, Microsoft, Amazon, எல்லாத்துக்கும் கொடுத்திருந்தேன். But sometimes initially when I applied for all the companies, I got rejected in first round, right? So then slowly I built the capability. So next time I at least crossed that first. So 2 times I failed there. I mean, the third time I went across that. So that is very I mean, essential for you to try it, right? அந்த இன்சல்ட் ஆயிடக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லி நம்ம ட்ரை பண்ணாமே இருந்தானா we are the losers. மற்றவங்க யார் இல்லை, we are losers. நிறைய பேர், I mean, whoever get into some companies, like there'll be time when you get embarrassed, there'll be time when you get insulted, there'll be time when things don't go away, right? So those things that tend to happen, that I think we have to face it, right? So that's why I had some tips for you to at least get going in the space. But yeah, I would like to know if you had any other questions for me to just answer some of you, and we'll close up. Yeah, any questions? And all good.
Sir, so when nowadays we have AI to check everything, every single code errors. நீங்க ஆனா காலேஜ் படிச்சு முடிக்கிறப்ப அப்ப ஏஐ எல்லாம் கிடையாது. உங்க ப்ராஜெக்ட் பில்ட் பண்றப்ப நீங்க என்னென்ன ஸ்ட்ரகிள்ஸ் ஃபேஸ் பண்ணீங்க? அப்ப ஜெனரேட்டிவ் ஏஐ எல்லாம் இல்ல.
So I think each generation has their own problems. Yeah, I mean, I would say எங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி ஜெனரேஷன் இருக்கிறவங்க, they might not even use IDE. They'll be just writing in some terminal or even either one. So what difficulties they would have faced?
Yes, sir.
So at our generation, we felt very blessed because we had some idea to say, okay, this is error. Only red line coming with error and so on. Now you are much more blessed to say, at least you have more thing to say, okay, now you have something better.
Yes.
So that's how I see it, right? So for example, I mean, one thing I think I missed, if you are giving it to any top companies, in coding எழுதணும் அப்படின்னா there will not be any IDE. You have to write in Google Docs, right?
Yes, sir.
Even I did an interview in Google Docs. Google Docs தான் coding எழுதணும். So there will be no IDE, anything. You have to do that. So I think the same way you have to practice in the same way. நீங்க problem பார்த்துட்டு Google Docsல அடிங்க. It will take, like, for me it takes 2-3 months to at least get the first coding right. அப்படியே காப்பி அடிச்சு இதுல போட்டேன்னா some error it will give, right? So slowly I got used to that format. இந்த format யூஸ் பண்ண அப்புறம் now like everything is like a plum அப்படின்னு சொல்லலாம். So that's where I see, like, you should also do it. You shouldn't believe on ID, you shouldn't believe on AI, this thing. you have to write your code on Google Docs.
Yes.
See how it goes.
So, thank you. Sir, sorry. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Video was lost for the mom had activities, but that was able to take. He used to tell the students, my mom, when she was in school, maths was a fingertips of the word, but one is a time delay from my.
Yes, sir.
That's what he says. In the only face, there are about the without looking at any rules, and one happens. Only if they do. Now, very so let's start to say that I want to post on go.
Yes, sir.
The reason is to do something like a channel.
Yes, sir.
Over you do that and you look at it.
Yes, sir.
Simple problem. That's some whatever is problem. Honestly, technically, yes, sitting on a corner,
Yes, sir.
not to be, at least just literally out.
Yes, sir. They should.
The dad of the star was one of the star.
Amas.
That's all.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. We are not so like.
That's what that.
Yes, sir. We should go up. Of course. Thank you.
That's really well.
Yes. Sir. Thank you. Thank you.
So I think that's why you have to be, have your foundation strong by doing, even now, I'll tell you one example, right? When the sir was talking about how the whole thing still works. And now, after my college, I felt like, yaar, paper, pen, I'll just leave it. But after 2-3 years, I've noticed that all the senior folks in the office used to take a paper and pen and write it. Now, I thought they're old generation. Then I realized how paper pen has a very good effect in the life. Even now I take paper pen and write. Right? Now I feel like I've missed so much for initial few years. Why I'm saying this is அது பண்ணி பாருங்க, it will change you in a different way altogether. We feel like, எல்லாமே சிஸ்டம்ல இருக்கு, அது அப்படியே we'll recognize it. Even for taking this PPT, I try to write what is the structure I'm going to take it. What are the points I think I should deliver to you, right? At least that structure I'll write. Maybe I'll spend 1 hour, half an hour, doesn't matter, but that writing helps you a lot. Adukapra you can make it into a doc where you can give it to Gemini or whatever it is and make it. But initially you should practice that, or you will later realize that how helpful is that. That's it.
Sir, where do you use AI in your day-to-day life? Because I feel when I use AI in coding, I spend more time debugging than writing the code. So,
correct. That's what I'm saying. AI is not mature, right? So we use AI in day-to-day, right? For writing a code, we use it. For debugging, we use it. If something happens in the production system, we use it. But we will try to use in a such a way. For example, how would I put it as? That's where you have to excel in prompt engineering, right? When you say prompt engineering, you have to say what is the input you're looking. What is the input that you're giving? What is the output that you're getting? What is the context that you're setting, right? We know when to stop. After it gets into a cycle, we'll stop it and then go manual and type it. That's why you need that coding knowledge to be used here, right?
So first we have to start building, then for errors and all we can use AI.
Yeah, you can use errors, reviews, you can
repetitive tasks.
Right? So once you get comfortable, you can use it, but don't use it at the initial point. Don't ask Gemini to give me add 2 numbers, give me Java code for it. Don't say that. You should have written that code before. Now you know how to write it. Now you can go and ask Gemini and then you can review it, right? So your first shot shouldn't be Gemini. Your first shot should be like you writing the code. Then you can use Gemini to learn, review all of it. Then that capability you build, what happens over the period of time, you know when to stop, you know when to use Gemini, you know for what task you have to use Gemini, or I mean I'm talking more of Gemini because I'm from Google, but you can substitute it with any ChatGPT or whatever it is, right? So yeah, so sometimes gets into the repetitive tasks, but you should know when to stop. When it doesn't, you know it's doing some mistake, stop it. Then do your own thing or get different prompt in some other window.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, actually, we faced some interviews in college. So, we somehow we passed a technical round and we went for HR round. But even we talked nicely with HR and they said okay, but we'll get back to you. They said, but I don't know like why they rejected in HR. Oh, actually, HR what needs from a person, like I don't know about the two. Because in technical skills we can somehow and we can say the algorithm, we can know I can showcase my skills in pen and paper and I can do it, but I don't know what actually HR wants.
So basically, I mean, HR is a very big field, to be frank. So HR has a lot of, I mean, each company has its own HR. There's a people team, there is a recruiting team, there's a lot of these teams, leadership team, etc. So when you attend to the company, I think you have to research what that HR is really is. And you should take the role of HR. If you were that HR, what you would look for? I think you should be clear in that. Otherwise, you don't know what HR is looking for.
Actually, they asking like nice questions on like family background. Do you want to do masters? Like then like we also answered, but I don't know what they're expecting those answers. Also.
Then you should. I think. See, the first thing. Sometimes it happens. I think it also happens for a lot of people. The first one is you should get feedback from them, right? What really like it need not be from HR round itself. For example, I'm coming from a company. I say I need only 4 people. I had 6 people. I have to reject 2 people. What I'll do? I'll take only 4 people, right? Irrespective of whether you do good or bad, I'll just rank them in order and I'll just okay first 4. So it could also happen that you have done well, but they have only 4 count. It could also be other round. You might have not done well. So at least the first one is get the feedback. Second one is do research before you get into those interviews. What they look for. If you are HR, what do you expect from the other people? I mean, now you have a lot of this online Glassdoor, whatnot, lead code, and a lot of these levels for information. And you have Ambibox, I think, right? Or Reddit. Go search for it. They'll say what leadership round they are looking for. And that should answer a lot of your questions.
Okay, so thank you, sir.
But for your question, it depends based on the company. It's not, you can say it's not set standard for every company.
Thanks, sir.
Hi sir, I'm Sukan. I was listening to what you said so far. Most of my questions were answered in that. What I wanted to know is it still practical or good to try to learn without the use of AI today? If I'm learning coding,
Without?
Using AI, like if I'm doing a code and I'm not getting the answer, natural debugging, I'll have to read through the compiler and figuring it out on my own. But if I put it in AI, it'll automatically give me an alternative. But I feel personally that this is for me. I'm not saying it applies to everyone. But what I felt was I'm not doing any learning basically. Like I'm getting the answer to my question. I'm applying that for that problem. But in subsequent problems of the similar pattern, I'm not able to go to the next step. A small example can be, I was a computer science student in school, and we learned Python there. This was during when ChatGPT, Gemini, and all was not that much like it didn't come into mainstream usage that much. So the base studying was they'll give us some exercises, and we just had to write it down on pen and paper, and our teacher will evaluate it. And once we complete all these steps, only that. You have to put it into the computer and get the result. But nowadays the general practice flow is we write a code, and instead of trying to find out such a similar platform, we directly put it into an AI tool. This AI tool gives us the answers. Now one aspect I can say I can go back to my old method of learning and do the same, or I can do this AI method. But if I go to the the old method of learning, the problem is will I get outdated or will I be not AI proficient, which is what companies are demanding nowadays.
I think there's a misconception, right? It doesn't mean that you put a problem to AI and AI giving you the result means you are proficient in AI, right? AI proficient means like there are two aspects. One is how are you using the AI? For example, you write a code and you have some error. Are you able to figure out by yourself? Yes or no? If no, right, then you are missing something there. I mean, you are not in that state where you are writing the good code. Now you know, okay, now whatever code I write is 100% right. Then now you are in a state where, okay, now I am proficient in coding. For example, you wrote some trees, or you worked on some Python pandas or NumPy or whatever library you are using. You can write without the help of some other ChatGPT or Gemini. Then great, that's where you have built your capability. Now you can give a problem to Gemini and you can know what you expect out of it. Or sometimes a friend is writing a coding, right? You don't know certain lines what they're doing. You can just give it to the Gemini and say, can you explain me, rather than you reading it. So that's how you read it, right? And you try to upskill yourself, right? So in the name of upskilling, you shouldn't be prompting the Gemini. So there are two different aspects. When you write code, you build your foundation strong, then Gemini will just be a velocity improver. For example, you do 1x of the coding, that will help you to do 2x of the coding. If you don't know what you're doing, if you totally depend on Gemini, it gives error, then you're stuck on error. You don't know how to solve it, right? So I would prefer you just try it by your own self before giving to Gemini saying like, what you've done wrong, figure it by yourself. If you're not able to figure out, then ask Gemini, what did I do wrong? So then slowly you get to a place where you're proficient enough, then you can simply ask some questions to Gemini and get it. And you can just review. For example, you ask some question, you just review your code and say, all done. If at all Gemini is not there, you'll be able to write that code. So that's how you should be.
Another question, sir. Now, if I have gone on the careers page for Google and multiple companies and so forth, some companies, their requirements is they ask us to train ourselves or at least be familiar about a role. If I'm applying for a full stack company, I have to be a little bit familiar about full stack development. I have focused on AI so far, but when I see a company like Google or any other big company, the name of the role is very general. They just say software engineering role. And when I see that, I get confused as to what would I be actually doing in that job. Like the skills listed and prerequisites are like you have to learn this language. You should be very familiar in data structures and algorithms. But the reason why I'm having a doubt is the job market is very big. There are multiple competitors. We're not only competing with our college or just our student community. We are competing with the entire world for this. So when it comes to that, the assumption I make is before going into the job, we should be a little bit more familiar about what you're going to do. But when I just see software engineering role, I don't get that clarity. So what can we expect if I go into a software?
I mean, if you look at software companies, right, for example, Amazon, Microsoft, Atlassian, whatever big companies, they have software engineering for a reason, because they don't expect you to understand the full stack. They want your foundation to be strong. For example, you get into Google, what language is strong in Python, then or Java, you should know depth in Java. That's it. You go inside, you learn any language. So the base is same, the foundation is same, everything is built on data structures. You know data structures, how to use map, how to use list, how to use trees. You can apply to any language, even it's a front end, back end, even it's a mobile, everything is same concept. So they expect like once you know it, you come and learn any language, right? Now there are some other set of companies like startups, which they don't have time for you to come and learn and then you excel in that. Rather what they do is, okay, I need this full stack developer because I don't have time, I don't have money, I need someone to just get my job done. then how do you do it? So basically there are a set of companies. For example, assume you are a owner of a company, right? You have only like 1 lakh per month, and you want to, within that 1 lakh, you want to fit someone, and you want to deliver something in 2 months or 3 months. What will you do? Will you take someone and train someone for 2-3 months, or will you want someone who already have that knowledge and you want to just quickly get the things done? Versus these companies don't look at that way. The top big companies, they look at in a different way. They feel like, I need strong engineers. I know how to. They know how to learn and debug by themselves. So that is the difference between these two set of companies. So I think you need to. I would say, like, it depends. For example, if you choose the other path, you'll be more stuck to whatever certain companies want. If in other path, there are a lot of big companies who really want a data structure algorithm. Even a lot of startup companies just look for this data structure algorithm. Once you know that, you can learn any language. So it depends on where you are applying and what type of companies you are applying.
Yeah, one last question. ATS screening, is it a big practice among the bigger companies, or is it just something restricted to smaller companies?
Wait, what?
ATS, applicant tracking system.
ATS training, you mean the kind of internship?
Like,
Then I learned how to use first back yes, whether you like it or not, engage with that.
even at bigger companies.
With 10,000 applications for one job. I'm not going to have as time, that's okay. Last year, everything has to be clear. Clear? So, you can't say the change, order change, that's not right. You want to take it out. Okay, make it from all the two winner, over, use that is all happen. Okay, so we can do that, we can do this. You would receive very long ratings. First of all, but we have first question. So the way if you learn coding on a different way, again it depends on you what you want to do. Whatever technique is now, don't look at it. Let me give you an example. 2 into 4, you will learn to in first class. At that point, after somebody taught you, after mathematician, on your class, you tell that, so we get only 4. So learn it by heart. Apply it everywhere, right? That's what I want. You go to ChatGPT and type and go into what you want to do. What was the second question? Related to the first one.
Second question was, what should I exactly expect in a software engineering role?
I'm not asking question. I was relating it. The software related question, what it says, what is that I do, what I want. So, as I like to say, stack development is the theme for any of the segments. Take 2 parts. One are the enterprise product companies, another is the service company that is the corporations for this, all the big companies. Here are Indian companies. Take product companies, they look at stuff for 10 number of people, not whatever you just go. Not that 1 lakh, that is one part. There are other aspects to it, this is beyond the scope. They will be looking at most. Simply because one liner, if I give you a job, I don't need to look beyond you, 1 lakh particular of that's all. You can look at it. Whereas, if you look at any of the innovative companies, product-based companies, they also have those that, but not the same. If you look at it, it's a bit distinct. You need to have deep skills, t-shirts, you will have deep tools. Okay, 1 or 2 areas. You also need to have a lot of markets. When they talk about the very service, what is it? Was it not that 20 years back? Even mechanical programming was all that. We used to class about all of those. And you can make one class or somewhere and do it and you just invoke it. Okay, that's all. Now we each of the function as in a separate area, polymer microservices. Right? And if you understand for all the fundamentals, then you can do everything. So that's what I told you in the beginning. What do you mean? Skills. Learn a skill, you will never become obsolete.
Yeah.
Sir, about your perspective, like I got his perspective regarding this issue. What is your perspective?
On the ATS.
ATS.
So I really don't know what is ATS. Can you just explain me what is ATS?
So basically, it's like an AI automated applicant tracking system. You give your resume, this software it goes to your resume, and it identifies it shortlists people based on certain keywords in that resume. What Sir said was majority of companies use it nowadays, but the idea that we are getting shortlisted by something that it's not visible to us. I just wanted to get like a first-hand account from somebody who's actually working at a company, if that's actually happening, or is there some more
I
details to
think
that?
it's already happening. It's before AI itself. It used to happen, right? It's not a. It's not a.
Every job has a JD, job description. However, you put the villa. My requirement is such that I want to see some sheets are comparable. Right, everything you see, like the gift. What the HR manually did, what the is going on. So they imagine keywords. The reality we have and the get different features. It's a yeah. And not like you are good candidate. When the really good order, that is
I think to add to that, there are a lot of these companies, right? CTS. I mean, Wipro. Lot of companies per day. How many applications do you think they are receiving? Do you think like there'll be like hundreds of recruiters sitting and looking at each of the resume? For example, I say, okay, now I need someone Java developer. Okay, I'll see whether Java is there in the keyword. So what I'll do? So ideally, you'll use some software, but that software depends on each company, right? So Wipro might have a different one. Microsoft will have a different one because they try to make it so intelligent in such a way they need only best candidates. What is best candidate for them? If I get from that tool, if I get 100 applications, I should be able to hire 10 from them. Then that is a good number I'm getting out of it. So even that they experiment, right? What they experiment, okay, from 50 I need 10, maybe from 20 I need 10, maybe from 10 I need 10. That's the accuracy they're moving towards, right? I mean, if they say, okay, I give you 5,000 applications, in that only 5 will get placed, then it's a waste of resource for a company. So how they manage that, how the software is built, no one knows. It's an intelligent software that each one uses. They experimented. They say, okay, this works, this doesn't work. So that's how, even that is again a cycle. They improve it, they do it. So those things will happen. But I think what you should worry is not how they build software, how you make it so well defined that any software should be able to pick it up. Right. So now you have, I mean, of course, before we don't have that. Now you have Gemini or all of this Chat GPT. You can tell that if you were I was just telling, right, if you were a Amazon recruiter, will you be able to select my resume? Tell me what can I improve? Tell me your feedback on this. So you can tell that it will give you all the details. So you don't need ATS for that, but don't keep that ATS in your mind always. Just remove it and then you'll be able to fix it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
definitely more intelligent than into the area available with power. Management and area, obviously here, so it's definitely more brighter than so absolutely it's now ATS and business.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone ask any questions?
Hi sir, my name is Anish. So this question has been bothering me for a long time. So now we are all talking about how to get into the field, right? So let's get past the getting into the thing. So once you get in, now the thing is like you see everywhere the coding that they do, even in projects, these codings are done by AI, and the people are just like they're just managing, they're just seeing what it's doing, they copy pasting, and they're building the models. So the one thing that my father also has also worked in the tech field for 30 years, sir. The one common feedback that I got from him was, now that with this AI revolution and with it being able to do the codes and everything, this sense of learning is becoming very stagnant. So it's like you're not learning anything. It's like you're just doing it, and you're just managing what it's doing. So my question is, after you get into the field over 10 plus years, where you have done something for some time, and then you want to learn something, would it just become stagnant, or would there be more newer opportunities to learn in?
So I don't think there is a standard in any of this. For example, I think there are two parts to the question. The first one is whether the coding is just copy pasting. No. For example, at least I can talk whichever company is working on. So each line of code that goes into the production, I am responsible. You make A to generate, or even I generate, I am responsible. So I should be reviewing each line of the code. That is always there, because I am responsible. I am the owner of it. You can't say A generated because today Google is not working, right? Or AI generated today Amazon site is not working. I can't say that. I think that is something which everyone has to do. Just that AI will help you to do things much faster. That's what I could say. On the second part of it, it's not stagnant. I would say every day there's a new learning, right? If you actually see, it's very vast. Whatever we talked about is just a pinch of salt. For example, we are talking about software engineering, how to code. But where do you code? That is systems like IoT, there is ML systems. How do you build that LLM? Have you tried how to build that LLM? There's again a research going on there. There's a quantum computing, there is neural networks, right? There's a research, right? There are a lot of new things. There is robotic systems, there are driverless cars, and there are like satellites, there are rockets. You can see the field, right? It's not stagnant, I would say. Like you can create space for you to learn something which you can do for yourself. Of course you can make yourself stagnant, by the way, right? You work on one part of the code every day, just like pushing some changes, put a box from Amazon cart from here to here, then put some image from here to here. You can do always that, and always you can also switch to some field. You can do a research, you can do a PhD, right? Or you can do your own startup. You can become a CEO, you can be a founder, or you can be an investor. There are a lot of things that you want to do in your life, not the coding part alone is what I'm saying. So I think you can choose to do what you would like to do.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't get it.
You still practice lead code?
I still practice lead code. I practiced 2 years back. I practiced vigorously for 3 years, I guess. 3 years not because I'm already in a full-time job. I just do like some 1 or 2 hours evening. But see, it doesn't matter like I solved like 500 or 1000 in lead code. What it matters is how we solve the problem. It matters. Right? Even I've seen people who solve less than 50 or 100 problems in lead code. They still get into the interview. How they get into it? Because their problem skill matters. The same thing which I am going to repeat it. For example, if you solve 500,000 codes in lead code, you're not able to communicate it properly, you'll not get a job. The second thing, there's a problem given. You just say the solution, you'll not get a brownie points. You have to iterate it. You have to show how you're solving the problem, right? So even though you know a problem, for example, search or whatever it is, you go from brute force. For example, from time complexity from n square to n, then to root n, right? So you slowly show them how you're solving the problem. So that's what matters, right? So I think don't fully going to lead code saying like, if this is the problem, this is the solution. But I was always suggesting try this book, Cracking the Coding Interview. That is a book I strongly recommend for you to read about it. It doesn't say how to solve it. It gives a pattern of problems. It also says how we should approach a problem. So that you should do. But of course, I mean, I often take some interviews, and sometimes I go back if I need to go back and brush up some skills. But yeah, so lead code is something which you shouldn't avoid doing it.
So what are the mistakes you made in preparation while doing like morning?
Okay, so the question is like, what are the mistakes I did in my preparation, right? So I mean, I think I mentioned all the mistakes which I told. The one thing is, I thought I'm very good at communication, right? Then I figured out I'm not. The reason behind, when I'm writing code, I don't know what I have to tell when writing. Can I say I'm writing add? See, no, that's not going to work. But how do you do it? So slowly, like, okay, I learned when a problem is given, clarify the inputs, clarify with what is that the interview is telling to say. Tell them, okay, can I clarify? This is the question, what you meant. That helps you, give you clarity on what is the question is all about. Then try to come up with edge cases which you want to consider. Now you have the problem understanding fully. Now we get into the solution. It's not like you get a problem, you get a solution and say, okay, this is a solution. Then they'll say, what is this? They reject it, right? They want you to ask more questions. They want you to clarify a lot of your problem solving skills. So that's where you solve your problem. Then you write first code. The first code shouldn't be the optimal one. The first code should be like how you are improving a bit. For example, manually how you solve it. Now how you slowly solve it using the system. Like another n square, time complexity, right? And then how you reduce the time complexity. I mean, the time complexity is like there are only 4 to 5 types of time complexity. It's not complex one. Then you slowly reduce it. So then you slowly code. I mean, once you clarify all of it and say, okay, now I'm ready for it. Now can I code? Now we'll code it. That's it. I mean, that is one mistake I made. There are a lot of mistakes I made, right? So I mean, that's where I took like a long time to get into this, right? That is one thing. I think a lot of other things are I felt like I'm good at writing code, right? Then it took me to write a code 1.5 hours, right? But the interview is only 30 minutes. How do I solve from 1.5 hours to 30 minutes? So I have to brush up all the things. I have to speed my coding skills at a certain level. Then I have to write some test cases for mine. Have you studied about test cases? It's a brownie points it will give you when you are doing interview. Try to how to write unit tests. That is something very important, right? So I think these are the fundamental things, at least in coding, right? But when it comes to leadership, it's totally different story. Like how you want to express what you have done, right? It cannot be so blank. I think the same book which I mentioned, it talks about different ways of how do you say that, what is the situation? There's a star, there's a full form of situation. I'm not very sure about the full form, but basically you have to say like, this was, I mean, if somebody asks you like, what is the toughest problem that you faced in your life? You have to say, what was the situation? What was the task? And what did you do? Why did you do it? Right? And that all should relate your strength, not a weakness, right? If you have done some weakness, then say, okay, now from that I've learned something I shouldn't have done. Now I've improved myself, right? So those things has to be from the leadership perspective. So I think, I would say like, a lot of this, because each individual will have its own strength, own weakness. I would say that's where this kind of trying to do a peer interview helps a lot. And sometimes it comes after attending interview, then you say, okay, this is the mistake I made. But these are the maximum things which I've shared, the mistake which I at least made. But there could be a lot which I might not. Any other questions? That's all? Or we have last 5 minutes if you want anything before we leave.
software role? What was the
Role. I'm a software engineer. You made what? What is a day-to-day task? Okay, so for me, I think it depends. When you come to a software engineer, I think the role is not set standard. There are different levels in software engineering. For every company you take, Amazon, Microsoft, even Google, each level you need to do something, right? For example, at level 2, when you're entering from college, you should be able to complete a task which is given to you. The next level you reach where you will be able to at least take your task independently. So at least for my role, I mean, I'm a little above it, so I'll be like helping the team members, right? I'll be solving the problem for them. I'll be able to take the problem statement and solving it in a much scale, I mean in big scale. How do you reduce the friction in the releases, right? And how reviewing the teammates' code. Beyond that, how are you bringing the AI into the project? So those things are which I do. Basically, at least in Google, we have 80% to 60%, 40%. So 60% I do my project, 40% I'll try to learn something from outside, so that I know I'll also build my skills. I think one thing which you also have to figure out is, I mean, once you get into the company after 1 or 2 years, you should figure out a time for yourself to build a capability. It's not always you sit day and night to work for a company which you don't get anything out of it. I think you should also have some time for yourself and choose a company where you can build your skills. I think that's also very important over the period of time. So that's what I currently do.
Thanks.
Anything else? Final? Yeah.
Sir, my name is Anurit, and my question is from placement's point of view. When we talk about a resume, there's a field like work experience. As a fresher, when we mention like work experience, it's basically internship. Now, when we talk about internship, there's one more concern which comes in, like whether quantity is the one you should focus on or the quality. Because in general, we can't say that quality is the most important thing. Who cares about quantity? Because our resume has to pass some automatic tools like ATS and other things. In that, the tools will be analyzing our work gaps and everything. So, and when I say about quantity and we exclude quality, then in the final round or in the HR round, we won't be able to defend our work. So again, it leads to failure of our.
So I wouldn't say, we can't say like every time quantity works or every time quantity works, but I think what works is mostly I've seen is the quality, not quantity, right? The reason behind is you have to define metrics. I have improved my system performance by 60%. This is the quality or quantity? It's a quantity, right? So how we are improving the system? For example, you build a very big 1 lakh lines of code and it's a buggy system. Do you say, okay, this is what I've done?
No, sir.
So of course you might need to have that quality in mind. That's something which everyone looks for. What is the quality that you're given, right? Nobody looks for quality. Sorry,
quantity. And also, when we talk from the industry point of view, which has more values, either certifications or building projects?
It doesn't matter. Basically, you might have good, even I can print a certificate. Do you think that's valid?
No, sir. When we get it from a reputed place,
doesn't matter.
So building projects is important.
So even projects doesn't matter. Basically, your knowledge matters, right? So basically, these are some things which help you to at least like get your screening done. But I don't think that will matter for your interview, because people know that certificate is not a great thing to access, right? For example, I mean, there are companies, I wouldn't say like it's not at all a big thing. Once you get into the interview, big companies don't look at your certifications, they check your knowledge. Some companies, maybe like some startups or even some XYZ companies, look for your certifications because it's easier for them to look at certification to filter out. So there's no right answer to say that project versus certification, but ideally what matters is what you have done in that is the matter, right? So basically, like if you have done something very big project in the certification and you are able to express that outside, then that is what it matters. Or if you haven't done certification but you have done a project that have created a lot of impact, then that project is a great win. So I think you have to measure between what works for you and what you search for. And I think I don't think any ATS system is designed in such a way that you only look for certification or you only look for project, but it look for like combination of both to understand what you have done, right? It's not about, can you say like I've completed a quantum computing certificate, what will ATS system take from there?
If the role is related to quantum engineer, it will pass.
So because you have done it, no, I think it should be go beyond it, right? In quantum computing, I have done some simulation. From that simulation, I am able to bring a new algorithm that is able to do 3x speed of the search. That is what it matters. It doesn't matter like you completed a certificate or completed a project. So I think those values you have to bring in rather than saying that you have completed a certificate versus you completed a project.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You want to give the mic? Okay.
Sir, how much important our CGPA like to apply MNC?
CGPA, I think, I mean, certain companies has some eligibility criteria, but that is only to filter out people. It doesn't mean that lower CGPA people will not have a good knowledge. It's just to filter out people, but I don't think CGPA at all matters, right? And I think there is a bar. For example, Tech Mahindra, those companies have minimum 75 or 80%, which they require at a system level, because they don't want someone, having like 5, 4, 3, 2 to get into the system, because they put that filter on their side. So once you get to experience, then it doesn't matter. But at least to start with, certain companies has some CGPA, but there are a lot of startup companies who doesn't have CGPA at all. They just look for knowledge. Which programming language I prefer? So I worked on Java. I would say pick up a OOPS language, because that will be much easier to design a OOPS class. Maybe C++ or Java or even Python works. That will be easier. Python?
Majorly go with Java or C++.
Yeah. So, if companies don't, you're asking like your companies don't ask for Python. So, of course, it's that's what I'm saying, right? For big companies, they don't ask for specific language. For some companies, they look for only certain languages. But I think which language you are comfortable in, you should practice. For example, if you're targeting certain set of companies, and if you think that Python is not there in their job description, then I think you should shift to some other language. Or if you want to stick to the Python, then stick to the Python, and you have to remove that company out of the list and try to look for other companies. But what I have seen is generally Java is most Java or C++ is where most of the candidates are try to use it, because it's because of the easiness and those things.
Sir, I have a question. So this is Madhuvanti. During the first session, I was wondering as to how quantum technologies can be utilized in a dynamic environment like stock market.
So I think, quantum computing is still not live yet, right? People are still exploring, a lot of research is going on. Of course, when it comes into picture, it can do a lot of magic. That's what I'm saying, right? It can do some magics like which classical computer cannot do. For example, the stock market, yes, it can predict, it can predict to such level that you will get for sure profit in this, right? That's the level of it can predict. But we are not there yet. I would say still we are trying to figure out a system, a quantum computing system that is stable. So that's where we are in. But I think soon we will reach there, but I think it will take some time to reach there. At that time, I think, maybe your research could also be on that.
Also, one more question. It's a bit of a non-technical question, though. So, since you work at Google, I guess there might be some quality and amount of work that might be expected from you. So, has your professional life took a toll on your health in any?
I think yes, definitely that will do.
Like, how do you in that case manage to have a somewhat healthy lifestyle?
See, I think it depends on the people, right? So, I mean, I have seen people in my team working throughout the night. They sleep at morning 3 and get up at 11. But I follow different thing. Like, I sleep at 11 and get up in the 6 in the morning. So you have to balance. I have to say, you have to say, okay, stop. Otherwise, you just get into sometimes you get into circles. I mean, of course, if you have done some coding, sometimes you might feel like if you don't finish something, you will not feel sleep, right? You just extend by 11, 12, 1, 2, sometimes it goes to 3. And sometimes you feel frustrated, sometimes you feel stressed. So that's what happens in the real life, right? So how do you manage it? So it all depends on how do you have a lifestyle. I mean, there's no one single answer. For example, I would say keep your health fit, eat good food, or even go for jogging, irrespective of whatever it is, right? Sometimes it happens it will take a hit where you're not able to go for any jog or anything because of certain other reasons. So, I would always say keep health as the first preference, right? Even top companies try to say that you always prioritize your health. That is very important. So how do you do it? It's up to you. For example, if something doesn't work for you, can you close your laptop and sleep and get up in the morning and do? Then that's fine. Or not. If you want to sit the whole night and solve it, then you're burning yourself, right? But no one is asking you to sit whole night and do it. That's for sure. It's just you are taking your your pressure. That's what I would say.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, but for me, I think I always try to see if I can keep my health fit. But sometimes I was able to, sometimes I'm not able to. Yeah. Anything else? Are we closing now? Thanks so much. I think there are a lot of questions, interesting questions, and feel free to reach out to me for any questions that you have. I'll be happy to help you out. And all the best. I think if you don't get a job, don't worry. That's not the life. There are a lot of things that you can do beyond that. You can be a future CEOs, CTOs, founders, researchers, or what not. So just look at life at a different way, and you'll always succeed. Thanks for the time, and thanks everyone. Thanks.